And joining us now live via Zoom to discuss Alec Baldwin's potential legal jeopardy is Los Angeles criminal defense attorney Rachel Fiset of ZFZ Law. Good morning, Rachel. Thanks for being here with us.
Good morning.
All right, we want to get into this because Alec Baldwin was a producer. Hannah Gutierrez Reed was the armorer, and we now know that both of them are facing 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter in Helena Hutchins' death. She was the cinematographer. Now, they're charged with the same crimes, but do you see a difference in their potential legal jeopardy?
I do see a difference in their legal jeopardy. I see a difference in the way they will defend the case. I think Alec Baldwin, yes, he's a producer, but I think the way this is charged, they are actually focusing more on his actions as the shooter of the gun, because there's been a line of discussion and findings that Alec Baldwin, while he was a producer and maybe they're holding him to a higher standard as such, he was not the producer in charge of safety violations. And that is a very important distinction. So his knowledge of safety violations will come into play, but I think the prosecutor here is really focusing on the fact that he did not check the gun when he got it in his hand and that he fired it at another human being. As to Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the armorer, her job was to check the gun. She allegedly loaded this gun. And I think they will look to the negligence in how she was performing her job function as it relates to this exact incident.
So I think a lot of people are just still very surprised that in the age of 4K, 6K, 8K TV and all the graphics that we have, that real guns are still being used on sets. So when you're using real guns, it would be assumed that you take extreme measures and extreme caution. Is it the recklessness and the potential negligence here that is the crux of this case?
Absolutely. So there is no allegation that either one of them intentionally put a bullet in the gun or intentionally fired the gun knowing there was a bullet in it. So the prosecutor does not have a burden to show that there was intent. And there are very few crimes where the prosecutor does not have a burden to show intent. And negligence is one of them. So the prosecutor will now attempt to show that there was a conscious disregard for human life in the way that these actions played out. And again, each of these defendants will have different defenses that they assert in attempting to show that they were not consciously disregarding human life on this day.
So the DA filed 2 charges against each of them. They are 4th-degree felonies, but one of them carries a firearm enhancement, which could also bring about a 5-year mandatory sentence. What's the burden there? What would the DA have to prove in order to get that enhancement?
They'd have to show that the negligence was a higher standard than what is simple negligence, which is the first charge, in order to get that enhancement. The 2 go together because that second charge carries a special part that says in a lawful action. So, and that means they're slightly less reckless. They're not doing something illegal here. So then the burden to show basically the recklessness and conscious disregard becomes higher on the prosecution. I would doubt that they can show that.
The assistant director, David Halls, he's already reached a plea agreement with prosecutors for the charge of negligent use of a deadly weapon. We know he's cooperating with them, and so he got his sentence suspended with 6 months probation. How does that play into the rest of these cases?
So personally, I have always thought that David Halls was in the most peril in this case. He was the assistant director. It was his job to oversee safety on the set, and there are pretty damning emails that he was not performing that job well and perhaps pretty negligently. So he likely just took this plea to a lesser charge because he was facing the same charges that these other 2 were facing, and perhaps he had worse defenses. So now that he has pled to a lesser charge, he will act as the state's witness and he will testify against both of these defendants in this case. And that's the way his plea bargain worked.
Wow, there are so many moving parts and it's very convoluted, so we appreciate you for coming and breaking this down for us. Criminal defense attorney Rachel Fiset from ZFZ Law, thank you for being with us on Spectrum News 1.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back.